The Prisoner's Dilemma. Thomas Hobbes thought of morals as rules for living in society. From his point of view, human beings are not bad, they just have needs. And in order to understand that, we have to analyze the 4 basic facts about the condition of human life according to him. So first, the equality of need. We all have the same basic needs, but we are all alike in other needs. Second, scarcity. Our resources are limited, which means we have to fight for surviving. Third, I think he considers the essential of human power. No one is superior to others. And then last but not least, limited altruism. Even people is not selfish. No one will lose in a conflict of interest. So with all that being said, Hobbes theorized that when we do not or did not cooperate between ourselves, then we stayed in the state of nature, a state without government, laws, police, or courts. In conclusion, the state of nature is a continual fear and danger of violent death. To escape from the state of nature, we need to cooperate, which means having a guarantee not to harm one another and to establish rules called a social contract. To sum up, in words of James Rachels, James Rachels states, the state exists to enforce the most important rules necessary for social living, while morality consists of a whole set of rules that facilitate social living. This is demonstrated in his case of the prisoner's dilemma. The prisoner's dilemma is a concept used to model a strategic interaction in which actors choosing their behaviors rationally, according to their own self-interest, make everyone worse off than they could have been otherwise. The key feature of this game is that when the game is played only once, no matter what the other player does, cooperating with me or trying to exploit me, I am better off trying to exploit the other player. So in the end, every player exploits rather than cooperates, and they are all worse off than they would have been could someone have forced them to cooperate in the end. So in this case, one day you are arrested and charged with treason. The police say that you have been plotting against the government with a man named Smith. They also have arrested him and he is being held in a separate cell. The interrogator is demanding that you confess, but you are protesting your innocence because you don't even know Smith. But then you soon discover that the police are not even interested in the truth. They are just wanting to convict someone. So they offer you a deal. So the first option is if Smith does not confess, but you confessed and testify against him, they will release you. You will go free, whereas Smith, who did not cooperate, will be put away for 10 years. The next option is if Smith confesses and you do not, the situation will be reversed. He will go free if he confesses, and if you do not cooperate, you will be put away for 10 years. The next option is if you both confess, you will both be sentenced to 5 years in prison. And lastly, if neither of you confess, there won't be enough evidence to convict either of you. They can hold you for 1 year, but then they will have to let both of you go. After they tell you the deal, they tell you that Smith is also being offered the same exact deal, and you have no idea what he is going to do. So what do? What will get you free the quickest, confessing or not confessing? So you have to look at it as either Sam will confess or he will not. If he does confess and you confess, you will both get 5 years. Whereas if he confesses and you don't, you will get 10 years. Therefore, if he confesses, you are better confessing as well. On the other hand, if he does not confess, then you are in the position, if you confess, you will go free, whereas if you do not confess, you will remain imprisoned for 1 year. Clearly then, even if Smith does not confess, you will be better off to confess. Therefore, the best option is for you to confess. That will get you out of jail the soonest, regardless of what Smith does in the end. So the moral issue or dilemma faced by the prisoners here is that whatever the other does, each is better off confessing than remaining silent. But the outcome obtained when both confess is worse for each than the outcome they would have obtained if they had both remained silent. A common view is that since betrayal rewards far better than cooperation and avoids a massively worse result, all purely self-interested people will betray each other. The reason why the prisoner's dilemma is so tiltating, it's because rational choice would lead each prisoner to betray, even though both cooperating would be best. Utilitarianism, by definition, is a normative ethical theory that put the locus of what is right and wrong solely on the outcomes. Through this theory, people learn that they should do whatever they think will produce the greatest possible balance of happiness over unhappiness for those who can be affected by one's action. This means in order to determine whether or not what a person did was wrong or not, one has to analyze the consequences of his or her acts, whether people would be harmed or benefited from them. So the ideology of the utilitarianism is to accomplish the greater good for as many people as possible, meaning a person can do something bad, but in the end, if the result benefits people, then it is good or worth doing. Egoism is the theory that teaches us that people usually do what is good for them and not others. They do this because they do not feel like it is their responsibility to do so. This theory has two categories known as descriptive and normative. Its overall principle is that one's self-interest is the ultimate motivation of one's actions. This means people think that they are only responsible for themselves and not anybody else. People's moral obligation in this theory is to act in ways that can be beneficial just for themselves. By definition, the social contract theory is a set of rules which rational individuals will agree to obey for their mutual benefits or interests. According to Hobbes, the idea of consent is the center of a social contract due to the fact that people are being born selfish. Through the social contract, people give some of their freedom or autonomy through cooperation in order for what we call society, and then provide security needed for people to thrive. This means social contract is what makes social order exist. Without it, there would be no social order, and it would be anarchy everywhere. The prisoner's dilemma theory seems to be in accordance with the utilitarian's concepts. The reason for such a conclusion is because utilitarianism's ultimate goal is to achieve the greater good or happiness to as many people as possible. For that reason, rejecting self-interest is the best option in order to embrace what is good for others or each other in the utilitarianism ideology. The course of action of each prisoner in regard to the other two theories would be simple. For egoism, each prisoner would look out for themselves as the ultimate goal. They would betray each other by cooperating with the police. As a result, they would both end up having a 5-year sentence instead of the 1 year. For the social contract concepts, the two prisoners would seek what is best for them mutually, meaning not cooperating with the police so they could both receive a lesser sentence. Because people are selfish by nature, cooperating is always in a person's best interest. Because one cannot control what other people might do, they can choose to cooperate, and they might choose not to. If I do not cooperate while the other person does, the chance is I will end up with a higher or more severe punishment while the other person gets to walk away while we both have committed the same crime.